absolutely perfect, Judge. I appreciate your jumping in to help too. Let the record reflect.
Are we ready to resume? I'd like to remind the witness you're still on the road.
Yes, ma'am.
Proceed with your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Murphy, excuse me. You had been with Crimes Against Persons for, you've been with Cobb County PD for 7 years before coming to Crimes Against Persons. And you've now been with Crimes Against Persons for 2 years. My math's not good, but does that mean you were there for less than a year at the time you were working on this case in June of 2014?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember exactly how long you had been with Crimes Against Persons at that point in June of 2014?
I started in March of that year.
March, okay.
Beginning of March.
Had you had occasion already to have secured search warrants prior to this case, however?
Yes.
Had you been involved in the securing of search warrants for electronic devices prior to this case?
I don't think I had.
You have had some training, however, in the securing of search warrants and preparation of search warrants, correct?
Yes, I took a class on search warrants.
Was that just one class as part of your mandate training or some specialized?
No, I took a specific class on search warrants, and they usually reference them. I took several other investigating classes, and they reference search warrants and hit certain aspects of them during those classes.
I'm going to ask you, you tend to trail off a little bit into the sentences. It is after lunch, so I understand it. But just so my overears can hear if you'll try to maintain through, please, sir.
Okay.
If I don't hear it, I'll let you know. So.
Okay, I'll try and speak up.
Thank you. And same for me. I tend to do the same thing after lunch, so let me know if anything I say you don't understand.
Yes, sir.
All right. At the time that you secured the first search warrant in this case, you had been to the scene there at the Uncle Mario's Pizza Place parking lot area, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had been back at the headquarters speaking with some of the officers, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. You did not take part in any of the interviews of Mr. Harris, is that correct?
Correct.
And you did not actually observe any of those interviews personally, is that correct?
Not that day. I've reviewed them later on, but not the
Prior to
day.
getting the search warrant, you had not seen those interviews at that point, correct?
For that day, correct.
So the information that you had to give to the magistrate was, as you indicated, what you observed there at the scene, and also speaking with witnesses that were on the scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then what had been relayed to you by some other officers, correct?
Yes, the interviews were related, what was going on in the interview was relayed to me from other officers in the office.
Very good. And specifically as regards to the witnesses, the on-scene witnesses, you spoke with several individuals, is that correct?
On the 18th, I only spoke with 2 witnesses at the scene. As the investigation went on, I tried to speak with as many of them as I could.
All right. Does that include Leonard Madden and Artika Eastland? Those are the 2 witnesses you spoke with on the scene?
Yes, sir.
All right. And at least one of them had indicated that when Mr. Harris stopped his car and jumped out, he seemed to be in a panic.
Yes.
Correct. And also, they indicated to you that he began performing CPR on the child after pulling the child out of the car, is that correct?
Yes.
You did not speak to Mr. Harris on the scene, correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, other than what the witnesses said, he had said when he got out of the car, Was there any other interviewing that you're aware of Mr. Harris there on the scene?
I know some of the responding officers had spoke with him
All right.
when they initially arrived.
Did you have any of that information prior to seeking the search warrant as to what he said?
Yes.
All right. And the information that you had, was that consistent with what you've already been told, that he had forgotten his child in his car, left him at work in the parking lot, realized he was there in the car and stopped immediately leading up to this?
Yes.
That's a lot of summation, I understand.
Yes, I mean, summarizing it, yes.
Okay, very good. In other words, there wasn't any separate information that you got from those other officers talking to him than what you've already relayed to us?
No.
And so the interview that Mr. Harris had later that evening at the police headquarters, when you reference in the search warrant application statements made by Mr. Harris, those are statements made on the scene that the witnesses told you about, and then statements made in that interview to Detective Stoddard. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's no other interview that you were looking toward or getting evidence of or hearing about that was had of Mr. Harris. Is that correct?
Just what he said to the officers on the scene and what was said when Stoddard interviewed him at the
Very good.
headquarters office.
And as far as what he said to the officers on the scene, were they questioning him about anything? Well, let me just ask you this. Do you remember any specific officer that he spoke to on the scene?
I couldn't say specifically who it was.
All right. Let's look at the first search warrant. Now, my mind doesn't work as well as Mr. Evans, so I have to take them one at a time to make sure I keep track of them. So if you'll bear with me, we're going to take one step at a time, please, sir. And this would be states number 1. The search warrant 0596.
No.
All right. Takes exhibit number 1. I can work this here. Are you able to see that on the screen? Well, you don't have a screen in front of you, it's down there. Do you have a, well, you can see it?
I have a copy in front of me, I could see this.
Perfect. I just want to make sure we're tracking each other. Now, on this search warrant, you indicate that you believe there's probable cause regarding the crimes of homicide, murder, and first-degree child cruelty, correct?
Yes, sir.
And as you set forth the affidavit itself, did you prepare that yourself?
Yes.
And it starts at the bottom of States 1, this box.
Oh,
down here, correct?
that, I'm sorry.
Where it says that facts establishing probable cause.
Yes.
All right. And it begins in that box. That's information that you would have typed into the computer, correct?
Yes, sir.
Affiant is a sworn and certified police officer and going forth. And then it goes on to page 2, does it not?
Yes, it does.
And that information that's in that box at the top, that's the extent of your affidavit, correct?
Yes.
The written portion.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there's an oral portion. Now, let's take it, the first paragraph simply states your background, correct?
Yes, it does.
There's nothing in there that references these facts in this case or anything regarding probable cause in this case, correct?
Correct.
The second paragraph relates that on June 18, 2014, officers responded to the location, the person down call. And I'm paraphrasing it a little bit, obviously, but you see that in front of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then it also indicates that they discovered Cooper Harris was deceased, and the crime against person was contacted and responded to the scene, correct?
Yes.
Now, that is factual information as to what occurred to start this investigation, correct?
Yes, sir.
Nothing in there at that point in time that gives us any indication one way or the other as to why Cooper Harris is deceased or what happened leading up to it. Is that correct?
Correct.
The next paragraph recounts some of this eyewitness information that you were talking about, does it not? In as much as it indicates that Mr. Harris pulled into the parking lot, came to a sudden stop, quickly exited the vehicle, opened the driver's side passenger door and pulled out his child, correct?
Yes.
Then it says he was witnessed yelling, quote, "Oh my God, what have I done?" unquote. And then it says he then began doing CPR on the child. Again, all this is information that you got from the witnesses on the scene, correct?
Yes.
And then it also indicates EMS responded to the scene, and it was obvious the child was deceased, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, at that point in time, again, all that information is factual information, but does not give us any indication as to what the cause or manner of death of Cooper Harris was. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the last paragraph indicates that Justin stated he went to work that morning, forgot to drop the child off at daycare, left his residence, took the child to Chick-fil-A, and then went to work. Was left in the vehicle since approximately 9:30 in the morning. He was discovered by Justin around 16:20, which would be 4:20 p.m., when he was driving to meet up with some friends. And that is information that came from this interview with Mr. Harris. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as to that information, you specifically noted that he had indicated that he forgot to drop his child off, correct?
That's what he stated, yes.
And then he was not discovered until 4:20 in the afternoon, correct?
Yes.
And that's the extent of your affidavit.
The
Correct.
written affidavit, correct.
The written affidavit, yes, sir. Very good. And in that last paragraph, again, information it gives us regarding the cause and manner of death is that Mr. Harris said that he forgot his child in his car and left the child in the car, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
All right. Now, and in your affidavit, or excuse me, this warrant is actually asking to search the location of 1212 Winds Ridge Circle, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's no information at all in your affidavit regarding any offense occurring at 1212 Winds Ridge Circle, correct?
No, there's nothing in the affidavit.
And you're asking to search for papers, writings, documents, photographs, evidence of child neglect, child abuse, and to photograph the residence.
Yes, sir.
All the information you had that you provided to the magistrate was that Cooper Harris's death had occurred inside that vehicle during the daytime hours when he was left inside the car, correct?
That's what the father was stating.
All right. And there's nothing in your affidavit to indicate anything other than what the father was stating, correct?
Not the written one.
All right. And you think in your oral testimony to the magistrate that you suggested otherwise?
I don't believe I did.
I don't believe you did. Was there anything, any evidence that you had that there was any papers, writings, or documents of neglect or abuse that existed at that point in time?
I didn't know what we'd find in the house reference to that. We were searching for evidence of neglect and abuse regarding a dead child.
Right. And you had no information whatsoever that anything had occurred in that house, correct?
Correct. We didn't know if he had died in the vehicle or the house or where he had died at that time. We knew that the father said he had placed him in the vehicle, driven to work, forgot about him, found him on the way home.
Exactly. And all the information that you put into the affidavit was, in fact, factual information of what had been said, correct?
Yes.
Now, in your speaking with the, excuse me, let me glance over this. Also indicating looking for evidence of child neglect, child abuse, and photograph the residence. Other than the, obviously, Cooper being deceased, There was no evidence in the car or on his body or in the area of any sort of abuse, physical abuse to the child, correct?
I had not seen the body at that time. They had it covered with a sheet.
All right. And you didn't have any information from anybody else who had seen the body, there being any bruises,
Not at that
broken
time.
bones, anything of that nature? And is it fair to say that basically you wanted to go into the house just to see what you might find in the house?
Not just to see what we just could find.
Okay. Well,
We had a dead child and we wanted to find out what happened to him.
I understand.
We weren't sure if he had passed away in the vehicle, in the house. We don't know if there's signs of neglect in the house or abuse.
But you had no evidence whatsoever of any neglect or abuse occurring in the house, correct?
Before the search warrant?
Yes.
No, not that.
For that matter, after the search warrant, you didn't have any evidence of any abuse or neglect, did you? Even in the house?
No.
Now, in you were speaking with the magistrate, do you recall making comments to the magistrate about statements that Mr. Harris had made regarding researching items?
Not in this search warrant.
That's the next one, correct?
Yes.
Now, with regards to that, this is the very first time you spoke to the magistrate trying to get a search warrant
For this case,
for
yes.
this case. All right. And we have, you said you have already listened to the oral testimony to verify that it's as you indicated to the magistrate?
Yes, sir.
For the record, this is from State's Exhibit Number 5. This is a DVD marked 15SW0596. I'm going to ask to play that, Your Honor.
Okay, it is 7:39 p.m. on June 18th, 2014. This is Judge Mays in the Cobb County Magistrate Court. This is a search warrant application hearing docket E010634, for case number 14051843. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give in the matter pending before this court, in addition to the sworn application that you have submitted, and all such information shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please state your name and occupation for the court.
Detective Sean Murphy with the County Dispersal Unit.
Okay, and you're employed by the Cobb County Police Department?
Yes.
Okay, how long have you been employed in that capacity?
7 years with Cobb County, 10 years in Monroe.
All right. And is this your search warrant application docket E010634?
Yes.
What criminal offense or offenses are you investigating this time?
Homicide and child neglect.
Okay, will that be cruelty to child in the first degree?
Yes.
Okay. And during your investigation of those two offenses, is there a location that's become the subject of this search warrant?
Yes, it's 1212 Wines Ridge Circle, Marietta, Georgia.
Is that located inside Cobb County?
Yes, it is.
All right, I see that you have included in your application a detailed description of the exterior appearance of that residence, and it is a condo, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, is it your testimony that a reasonably well-informed law enforcement officer with this address and this description would be able to locate the correct location without incident?
yes, sir.
Are there officers on scene standing by at this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, before telling me your evidence of probable cause, tell me what evidence you'd like to search for at 1212 Windy Ridge Circle.
We're looking for basically evidence of child neglect, child abuse, to see how the house is it clean, well kept for a child? And writing documents, photographs that will lead to evidence of child neglect or child abuse.
Okay, are you saying that you also, in addition to searching for papers, writings, documents, photographs, and evidence of child neglect or abuse, etc., we should delete and etc. That's are you also saying you want to take pictures of the interior of the residence? Then if okay, if you'll add that to what you want to do. And once you've saved that, let me know and I'll refresh on my screen.
Okay, so
Okay, go ahead and tell me what your evidence of probable cause that any first degree to be present at this location.
955 Acres Mill Road regarding a person downfall. They arrived on scene, discovered a deceased child. Currently, this person is contacted and began an on-site investigation. Basically, the child's father, Justin Harrison, was driving the vehicle. It's a 2011 Hyundai Tuscan, Ford tag RT7088, pulled into the parking lot at a higher. Did I do this? At the basically since around approximately 0930 hours this morning until around 1620 hours when he just very deeply. And Justin and his wife at this time are being basically looking to check the residence to determine if there's signs of neglect inside their house.
Okay. Is there any other evidence or testimony you'd like to add at this time?
Yeah.
Based upon the sworn testimony that you have offered in your application for the search warrant, I find that there is sufficient evidence of probable cause to grant the search warrant for the location 1212 Woods Ridge Circle, Marietta, Georgia 30067, for the purpose of searching that location for evidence of crimes of
Not precise. I also added that they were not.
That they were not. You did not relate to the magistrate the emotion that had been shown by Mr. Harris on the scene that you had been told.
Making a statement, oh my God, what have I done?
Right. But what you didn't put in there, what you put in your How about the information, you had not spoken to the manager of Madios at that time that you held the search warrant, correct?
I had not spoken with him.
In the 90-degree reference, am I correct? Correct.
Yes.
And in fact, at the time that you were starved, your evidence was, and your concern was that he intentionally, maliciously there was some intentional act. Might be what?
Or Mr. Harris and his wife were acting when they were speaking with the detective.
That you're authorized to search for evidence designed for use in the commission of the crime, intended for use in the commission of the crime, has been used in the commission of the crime, and tangible evidence of the commission of the crime. Correct?
Yes, I checked those.
All right. And the only evidence that you had at that point in time was that Cooper had deceased inside that vehicle. Correct?
Just looking at it, I mean, we're not sure, did he fall or something at the house and hit his head, something we couldn't see there at the scene. I mean, we don't know what happened. We have a dead child. We don't know how he died. We got the witness statement, Mr. Harris statements about what happened. The next day.
Okay. But y'all didn't wait for the autopsy to see if you actually got some evidence of something. You went to get a search warrant, correct?
Yes, we got a search warrant that night.
As far as any tangible evidence of the commission of this crime, you didn't indicate anything to the magistrate when asked specifically about that, any specific item that you were looking for that would be tangible evidence of the commission of this crime.
In regards to the house,
Yes.
not intangible, I mean, I guess paperwork, documents, photographs, if there were photographs or anything found of abuse or neglect, that would be tangible.
At that point in time, you had no evidence of any abuse or neglect, correct? You didn't believe believe that, or there's any... All right, here we go. 7:48 PM. Correct? That's what the document shows. It'll speak for itself. Let me try to get it in order.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, sir.
When you got on the scene, there were other officers there at the scene of the parking lot area, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you remember Officer Gallimore being one of those officers that was present, a uniformed officer?
I don't specifically remember.
Okay. Do you remember talking with any of the uniformed officers about what had been witnessed there?
I can't remember if I talked with uniform or their information was just relayed to me through other detectives.
Okay. Do you remember anybody relaying to you that in fact this white male was talking on the cell phone, acting hysterical and extremely upset? Does that ring a bell?
Yes. Would have been one of the witnesses. I don't know if it was that day or later on.
And also when securing the scene that the father was still extremely upset. You recall that?
On the scene or?
Yes, sir, on the scene.
As far as an officer relaying that to me or during my interview with the witnesses?
Anybody that you spoke to on the scene. Presumably it'd be from a witness because that's who would have seen it. But they may have told an officer who told you, specifically Officer Gallimore.
No, I couldn't say specifically what he had told me that day.
All right. All right. Now, with regards to the second warrant that you obtained, what was the timing of your obtaining of the second warrant?
The second warrant was signed,
Second search warrant.
second search warrant was signed at 21:08 hours, or 9:08 PM.
Again, I'll defer to your math. About an hour and a half later, give us that first search warrant.
Yes.
And in providing a written affidavit for this warrant, there's one additional piece of information, correct?
Yes, sir. And yes, the written affidavit, correct.
As to the first few paragraphs, you not change anything about that, added anything to it. The prior paragraphs you had in the first search warrant in 0596, correct?
Correct.
You've added a last paragraph stating that during an interview with Justin, he stated that he recently researched through the internet child deaths inside vehicles and what temperature it needs to be for that to occur. Correct?
Yes.
Now that information, you got that information allegedly from an interview of Mr. Harris, correct?
I received that information through other detectives that were observing the interview.
So you did not observe the interview yourself?
No. Not that day when it was going on.
I got you. And where did that interview take place?
In the interview room in the Crimes Against Persons office.
Were you in the Crimes Against Persons office at that time? You
Yes.
just happened to see it?
I was in the office. I wasn't able to see it where I was seated.
Were you in the process of putting the search warrant together? Is that why, or do you know why?
Yes, I was in the process of putting the search warrant together.
And so someone related to you that Mr. Harris had said those things that you relayed to the magistrate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who told you that?
I don't recall who gave me that information. It would have been one of the other detectives in the office.
Did you do anything to follow up to try to verify if that was true?
No, I just took as what they were giving me was the truth.
Was it Detective Stoddard who actually conducted the interview?
No, Detective Stoddard didn't give me that information at that time.
Are you sure it was even a detective?
A detective or a detective supervisor.
And you remember who all was there that day?
I could give you a list of names of who I remember being there.
That'd be great, thank you.
Detective Racy was at the scene, so he was in there. There've been Lieutenant Farrell, Captain Farrell now. I believe Sergeant Knowles, I'm not positive if he was there or not. Yeah, Detective Panchame and Adam Check, I don't know if he was at that time or not. Detective Stockinger, he might have been with interviewing the Miss Harris at that time. And we had some children's detectives come in. I think it was Waldorf and somebody else with him. And there probably was others in the office. I just can't remember everybody that was there. It was over a year and a half ago.
So there's at least 5 other potentials. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're speaking with the magistrate, and your training and your knowledge and experience. Are you informed that it's very, very important to be truthful to the magistrate?
Yes.
And not only truthful, but extremely accurate to the magistrate, correct?
Yes, as accurate as you can be.
Because the change of a word here and there can make a big difference, correct?
It can affect how you view a statement, yes.
I want to show you, just a moment. I misplaced the folder. I'll try to locate it here. In your speaking to the magistrate, thank you. If you had learned prior to talking to the magistrate, and in fact, Mr. Harris never said anything about researching child deaths, you certainly would not have told the magistrate that that's what he said, would you?
Yes.
In your investigation in this case, have you ever gone back to actually look at the actual interview of Mr. Harris?
Yes, I have.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I have.
And you have since learned that in fact, Mr. Harris never said that he researched child deaths, correct?
Specifically using those words?
Right.
No, but he had referenced it.
Well, let's be real accurate here.
He said that he had watched a news report with the guy that did this, and just like him, and now he's an advocate. He said he saw a bet on the internet that showed how hot it gets in the car. He watched that and mentioned that that would be terrible if it happened to his son.
Very good. And that's the extent of any reference to anything being seen on the internet in the entire interview of Mr. Harris to Detective Stoddard, correct?
I think so.
About 4 sentences, if my count is correct. Is that correct?
What I read, yes, that's 4 sentences.
He first said, I just watched news reports. There was a news report about a guy who did this. You certainly don't include watching news reports as being the definition of research, correct?
Depends how you define research. I'd say research is gaining information on something. If I'm gaining information about someone leaving their kid in the car and forgetting about them, you're gaining information on that subject.
Well, have you and I met before today?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. I won't ask you what it is, but you gained some information about me just in the short time we've been here, correct?
Yes.
You now know what I look like. Hear my horrible southern drawl. Probably bored with me already. You don't have to comment on that. But you didn't research me, correct?
Just looking at you, you're saying is research?
Right. I'm asking you, that's not research, is it? You're just observing me.
I'm observing you.
Correct. And all Mr. Harris said was that he watched news reports.
He also
Correct.
said that he saw a vet on the internet
Right.
that showed you how hot it gets in the car.
Absolutely. That's the second thing. I just want to take them one at a time.
Okay.
First thing is you watch news reports. You agree that's not research, correct?
No, I think it is research.
You think it is, right. And then the next thing he says is that just recently there was a vet on the internet who, said, even if you got your windows rolled down, regardless, I'm going to show how hot it can get in the car, You think you can just leave your pets in the car and roll your windows down. You can't do that. And I watched that. That's his reference. You're seeing something on the internet, correct?
Yes, he mentions the vet. He also says how terrible that would be if it happened to his son.
I understand. I'm getting to that. I'm just trying to take them piece by piece.
All right.
Okay? And there's nothing to indicate, other than it was on the internet, how he came to see it, correct?
Just that he said he saw it on the internet.
And you use the internet, correct?
Yes.
All right. You've seen a lot of things on the internet that you weren't researching, correct?
That I wasn't researching?
Correct.
If you're looking for something on the internet, I would define it as you're researching something.
So if you look on Facebook, you're researching?
Could be you're gaining information. People post news articles and stuff like that.
Certainly you could be. But just seeing something that is passing on the TV or passing on someone's internet, I just want to make sure, because you're the one who used the word, okay? Mr. Harris never said that he researched a single thing, did he?
He didn't use the word research.
But he did say, and that last statement is, that would be terrible if my son was in the car. I would hate that. Correct?
I know he said that was terrible. I don't know the exact verbiage, but yes.
So now, the one piece of information that you've added to speak to the same magistrate is that Mr. Harris stated he recently researched through the internet child deaths inside vehicles, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, what he indicated he saw on the internet was not about a child death, correct?
On the internet, he says, in the interview, he says it was a vet.
A vet,
This-
as in a veterinarian?
Yes.
Now, this particular search warrant is for, again, for the home, for evidence to include laptop computers, computer tower, the Chromecast, and other electronic devices, correct?
Yes, sir.
At this point in time, when you spoke to the magistrate, you had no evidence that any computer crime had occurred in this case, correct?
At that time, computer crime, no.
At the time that you spoke to the magistrate, you had no evidence that any evidence of child abuse or child neglect even existed at that point in time, correct?
We had a dead child that's not of natural causes.
In a
We
car,
got
those left in the
statements
car.
that he had seen a news show and this vet on the internet, which you can also watch the news on the internet. So he might have watched that on the internet. We don't know when he observed that, when he watched it.
Is there anything illegal about watching the news on the internet that you thought at that time was evidence of a crime of child abuse or homicide?
Just that, check that. I mean, the legal standard is not whether the item sought is in and of itself criminal. So I think it misstates what the legal standard is, and thus wouldn't be an appropriate question.
How are you intending your question?
Oh, let me try to rephrase, maybe that'll satisfy everybody.
Thank you.
What you asked for in the warrant was evidence designed for use in the commission of the crime. You had no evidence that any computer had been used in the commission of this crime, correct?
If he gained knowledge about how someone can die inside of a hot vehicle, I believe it could be.
If and could, I want to be real careful here. Did you have any evidence that there was evidence designed for use in the commission of a crime on a computer?
Yes,
All right, what piece of evidence was that?
his statements in the interview.
Which is that he forgot his shot in his car, correct?
And also about, he recently saw a news report on it, and he saw a veterinarian talking about how hot it gets in the car on the internet.
All right. And you, I take it you would then say that you believe that's also evidence intended for use in the commission of these crimes?
It could be, if that's how he gains knowledge about how someone can pass away that way.
You keep saying if. The bottom line is you didn't have any information.
I don't know which device he'd watched any of this on, other than it was a computer and he watched a news story.
I understand that.
So I don't know which one's going to contain this information.
But neither one of those pieces of information connected to the evidence you had at that point in time, which was that a child had passed away and being left in a hot car all day, correct?
I'm going to object to ask and answer.
Yes, Mark.
I've got him across then.
Well, that's for me to say.
I'm sorry, Judge.
Thank you. You have it across.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
You had no evidence that a computer had been used as designed for use in committing this crime of child cruelty or homicide, or that had been intended for use, or had been used in the commission of the crime, or was tangible evidence of the crime.
If he gains information on how someone can die this way through the computer and, or whatever electronic device, and recently observed this stuff, and
That's evidence that somebody's killed somebody, if they saw something online about a dog.
if he watches a show on someone dying in a vehicle, and then his son dies in the vehicle shortly after that in the same manner,
And you had no evidence that he watched a show of that happening. He saw a news report and he had seen a video on the internet, correct?
yeah, that's,
And in your speaking with the magistrate on this occasion, in your oral testimony, you made clear that basically y'all just want to look through these things to see if we can confirm what he said was true. Correct?
that we just, yes, we wanted to look through the electronic devices and confirm if he had researched that or not.
So your investigating of this alleged crime was to confirm what he said was true, not trying to disprove it, correct?
Confirm or, it would have confirmed or disproved if we don't find it.
Well, but what you told the magistrate was is that you wanted to look through them to see if you could confirm it, correct?
Yes.
And you listened to this oral testimony as well?
Yes, I have.
It is 9:03 p.m. on June 18th, 2014. This is Judge Mays in the Cobb County Magistrate Court. This is a search warrant application hearing docket E010635, case number 14051-843. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give and the application you have submitted in the matter pending before this court shall be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and occupation for the court.
Detective Sean Murphy with Cobb County Police Department,
Okay, how long have you been employed by the Cobb County Police Department?
7 years.
Okay, and what crime or criminal activity are you investigating at this time?
Homicide and child molestation. Murder of children.
All right, and during your investigation, is there a location that's become the subject of this search warrant?
Yes, 1212 Lions Ridge Circle, Marietta, Georgia.
Is that located inside the boundaries of Cobb County?
Yes,
Okay, are there officers on the scene at this time?
yes, there
Okay. What do you want to search for at that location?
are. We're going to look for a laptop computer, a computer power, and a Google Chromecast internet searcher.
Okay, and tell me why those items would be evidence of the crimes you're investigating.
We're going to tell you, I guess, I tell you the whole thing again.
Well, I'll go ahead and state for the record that this is a search warrant that is a companion search warrant to E010634, which deals with the same offenses and the same current. I know that in reviewing your application here, the majority of the evidence is the same. So if you'll just tell me what is in addition to the evidence that's already been submitted to the court in the previous search warrant, we'll take judicial notice of the existing search warrant E010634.
Well, during an interview with Justin Pierce, he stated he recently researched through the internet child deaths inside vehicles and what opportunity needs to be for that to occur. He said that this was one of his biggest fears, and that is why he recently researched this. We find it to be odd that this is how his child just recently died. Just want to look through the computer devices to confirm whether he was researching that or not.
Okay, so at this time, this search warrant is for the seizure of these computer devices that are located in this home?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other additional evidence or testimony that you'd like to submit at this time?
No.
Okay. Then, in consideration of the sworn testimony that you have offered in this search warrant application, as well as the in-life testimony, as well as the testimony and evidence offered in search warrant docket E010634, I find that there's sufficient probable cause to grant the search warrant for the search of 1212 Winds Ridge Circle, Marietta, Georgia, Cobb County, 30067, for the purpose of searching that location for a laptop, computer tower, Google Chromecast internet searcher, and any other electronic device to be seized for further investigation. At this point in time, that will complete our formal hearing. I'm going to stop the recording, review the recording, make certain it's recorded our hearing in its entirety and accurately, and then I will return to you with instructions for printing your search warrant. So please hold on for just one moment.
Okay.
So when the magistrate asked you, why would these items be evidence of the crime you're investigating, you reference back to the testimony you had already given the magistrate, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated, again, that you wanted to look through these computers to see if we can confirm his researching that or not, correct?
Yes.
Because you just didn't know what you were dealing with. You just wanted to look through and see what you might find, correct?
No, we were looking for any research related to in-vehicle deaths.
So you were not going to be the one actually conducting the search of the computers themselves, correct?
Correct.
So how you would be able to go about doing that to see if there's any evidence of that, you wouldn't be able to speak to that, correct?
No, sir.
There certainly was no evidence of any prior abuse of Cooper Harris, correct?
Not at that time, no.
Nor since, correct?
I don't believe so.
You had no evidence of Mr. Harris hiding anything in his computer about any child abuse or neglect, correct?
We didn't know if he was, that's why we were getting a search warrant.
You didn't have any evidence at all, you would just want to look, see what you might find, correct? No?
We were looking to confirm or deny his statements about doing research on vehicle deaths.
If in fact he had not been researching that, was that tangible evidence of a crime?
I'm sorry, what?
You were looking for tangible evidence of a crime. If you had determined that you couldn't find on these computers that he had researched that, would that be tangible evidence of a crime in your mind?
If we had found it?
If you had found that it was not there? Now, if
It
you're
was not?
confirming it, then he's telling you the truth.
If it was there, it would be evidence of a crime. I shouldn't say evidence of crime, evidence that confirms his statements,
Right.
and
Says he's telling you.
it's related to a crime then.
Well, the only crime being what you're alleging, that what you're looking for. At that point in time, you don't even know that you have a crime, correct?
No, we got cruelty to children. And homicide,
So you had already decided that this was a crime even before you started getting any evidence?
he was not charged at that time, we were investigating that crime.
Do you know what time he was charged in
I
relation to you getting the search warrant?
I believe the warrants were secured after I had done all the search warrants, for that day. I don't know specifically what time.
Let's move to State Exhibit number 3, which is 0598. This is the search warrant for the car. Now certainly the car was, the evidence you did have is that Cooper had passed away in the car, correct?
Yes, we believe that he had, based on the statements from his father.
And based on what was observed in the scene, he was seen brought out of the car deceased.
Yes, he was seen taken out of the vehicle by witnesses.
Now, what you did not have was any evidence that any computer, cell phone, or other electronic storage device had been used to cause his death, correct?
At the time that I took this search warrant, we already had statements from him in the interview about the research on child deaths.
Okay. And is that an indication to you that he had used a cell phone, electronic data storage device, or electronic communication device to commit that crime because he had seen something on the internet?
It could be used to research that and gain knowledge on how to commit that crime. He also uses a cell phone at the scene while the officers are there. He's on the cell phone.
Absolutely.
And could be communicating with other people.
All right. And did you have evidence as to who he was communicating to at that point in time?
No.
Had you tried to get it before you tried to get a search warrant?
I don't know if he was asked or not prior to the search warrant.
Would you like to have known that before you start swearing under oath to a magistrate? What information you have prior to seeking that search warrant?
Check to the phrasing of that question. I don't think it's relevant whether he would like to have it or not. Question here is whether there's sufficient legal basis for the probable cause of the issues of the search warrant.
I'll rephrase that. I think that's fair. In your training, in your experience, are you well informed that you should know the evidence in the investigation before securing a search warrant and swearing to a magistrate what the evidence is or is not?
I'd like to obtain as much information as I can before doing the search warrant, but
Now, in this warrant, you use the same written affidavit as you had in state number 2, correct?
yes, sir.
But in your oral testimony that you gave to the magistrate, you added some information, correct?
I believe I did.
And now, instead of just saying he researched child deaths, you add, and also he researched what temperatures it needed to be in order for that to happen, correct?
That's in my written affidavit.
in that last sentence there and what temperature needs to be for that to occur. And in fact, there was no statement made by Mr. Harris about researching what temperature it needs to be for this to occur, correct?
When I was able to go back and review the interview, said the vet on the internet showed you how hot it gets in a car, and he watched that.
He had not made a statement, as it says here, as to that he recently researched what temperature it needs to be for that to occur. Ms. Harris had not said that, had he?
Make that specific statement?
Yes, sir.
No, when I was able to go back and review the interview, he did not make that specific statement.
So in hindsight, is it fair to say that you wish you had not stated that to the magistrate?
No, I wish I would have, in the affidavit, I wish I would have worded it better. And I did do that later on in the other search warrants.
Right. Would have been more accurate if you had not used the words that you used, correct?
I wouldn't say that, I prefer to have worded it better. Once I was able to review, again, I'm being fed information from somebody watching the video. It's not me obtaining it word for word from him getting the interview.
And what you relied upon was just a group of detectives hanging around watching an interview that weren't even given the interview and weren't responsible for keeping track of its accuracy. They just told you something and you decided to give that to the magistrate, correct?
I wouldn't say they're just hanging around watching an interview.
Were they taking notes?
I don't know if they were or not.
Were they responsible for documenting that interview?
Generally, they'd probably just be observing it and then providing me with the information obtained from it.
Because that's, frankly, that's just kind of what detectives do when they don't have other stuff to work on. If there's an interesting case, you might watch an interview of it, correct?
I wouldn't describe it as just hanging around, just watching an interview. You're concentrating on what's going on while you're watching it and keeping track of what's being talked about.
But that word research, that came from some other detective that you then took and used, correct?
I don't know if he specifically gave me the word or I came up with the word. But
But we know it didn't
this
come out of
is
Mr. Harris's
this is
mouth.
the sentence, or this is what I came up with based on the information that was provided at that time by other detectives.
But we know that word never came out of Mr. Harris's mouth.
He did not state research.
The search warrant 0598 for the car. Regarding those specific devices that you were looking for, the fact that there were electronic devices, cell phones, that sort of thing in the car, did you have any evidence that any of that was even in the car to begin with?
I can't remember if someone told me that there was a computer bag in the car or not.
Did you, when you were on the scene, did you look into the car to see what was in there that y'all might want to get a search warrant for?
When I arrived on scene, I took a quick look at the vehicle. I didn't specifically go into what was in there or not. I just took a look at it just to see what it looked like.
Do you know that anybody else relate to you that they already checked the car out to see what was in there?
No, they hadn't.
All right. Let's look at State Exhibit number 4, I believe it is. This is for the iPhone, excuse me, it's a cell phone. I believe you indicated, did you not? Yes, this is the iPhone 5 that was taken from the person of Mr. Harris, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at this point in time, you've indicated that the crime that you're looking into is cruelty to child in the first degree, correct?
Yes.
And as far as the homicide is not indicated on there, is your indication that that was just a mishap on your part, you forgot to put it in there?
Yes, sir.
But nonetheless, when the search warrant was issued, that's what it authorized you looking for evidence regarding to first-degree child cruelty, correct?
That's what's listed on there. I referenced homicide in the affidavit.
When you say you reference homicide, you mean that this is a homicide investigation?
Yes. And I believe I state that it's a homicide and cruelty against children on the oral testimony.
Very good. In looking at the phone itself, you indicated, did you not, that this phone was taken off Mr. Harris's person when he was placed under arrest, correct?
In oral testimony?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think I say that.
Did you speak to any of the officers that were on the scene regarding the obtaining of the cell phone before you swore to the magistrate?
No, I was advised by other detectives how the cell phone was obtained.
Did they advise you that it was taken upon him incident to arrest?
I don't know if they said instant to arrest or just secured by the officers before he was handcuffed and placed in the back of the vehicle, or when he was handcuffed and placed in the back of the vehicle, the phone was taken.
Well, is it your testimony that you just came up with it on your own possibly to the magistrate that it was taken from him incident to arrest?
Possibly.
And again, in your training experience, is that a correct way to secure a search warrant, to just come up with evidence on your own?
I'm not coming up with it on my own. I was told beforehand that the officers had secured the phone when he was handcuffed and placed in the back of the car. I don't know if I was specifically told it was taken instant to arrest. At this time, it was already determined that he was going to be placed under arrest, and we had the phone secured instant to arrest.
You recognize that phraseology as specific terminology that means something in your business and my business, having somebody taken incident to arrest, correct? In other words, those are words of art. Those aren't just normal everyday words that people use.
It could be your
It's not fair
opinion.
to ask you what everybody in the world uses normally. I'll strike that. I'll tell you what, let's listen to how you told the magistrate, and then we'll come back to it.
It is 10.
One moment.
It is 10:32 PM on June the 18th, 2014. This is Judge Mason, Cobb County Magistrate Court. This is a search warrant application hearing, docket E010637, case number 1405-1843. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give and the application you're submitting in the matter pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Please state your name and occupation.
Detective Sean Murphy, Cobb County Police Department,
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
7 years.
Okay, is this your search warrant application docket E010637?
Yes.
What crime or criminal offense or offenses are you investigating at this time?
Homicide, cruelty against children.
Okay, during that investigation, is there a cell phone that has become the subject of this search warrant?
Yes.
Tell me about that cell phone and where it's located.
It's a white AT&T iPhone 5, phone number 205-790-6806. It's inside a black and silver case. It's curled in the crime against persons evidence room, in the evidence locker.
Okay, and let's see here. Tell me what evidence on that phone you would like to search for.
I'd like to physically examine documents, the storage devices, forensically imaged or copied, and later examined for evidence of these crimes.
Okay, who will do that forensic investigation of this cell phone?
It will be our high-tech detectives. They got all the equipment where they can look at, basically pull all the information off the phone.
And they are all post-certified law enforcement officers working for Cobb County Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the custody of the phone, will it technically change when it goes to the high crime tech unit?
Yes, it will.
Okay, and will the examination of the phone for the data contained therein damage the phone in any way?
No, it should not.
You indicated that essentially they will copy the data that's on the phone and then,
Information and copy it.
okay. So they're not actually going to search the phone, they're just going to search a copy of the data?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of data do you hope to locate?
Any text messages, phone calls, which could kind of tell you what kind of day you had based on the crime occurred over a long period of time from day to day.
Okay, and how would that be evidence?
The child was left in the vehicle from approximately 9:30 until 4:30 this evening. Kind of see what he was doing during the day while his kid was dying inside of his vehicle. And he also made statements regarding that he had researched how long it takes someone to die inside of the vehicle, what the temperature needs to be. And with his iPhone capabilities, he had internet access. Obviously, he had researched that information on phone as well.
Okay, and this is not the first search warrant that has occurred this evening in this case, is that correct?
No, it's not.
Okay. In fact, docket numbers E010634, 35, and 36 have also been issued. They contain essentially the same sworn testimony that is located in this search warrant. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And each search warrant has searched a different place or for a different item. This search warrant that is before us is for this cell phone. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it your testimony that all the testimony under oath you've given in the other other search warrant applications you believe is pertinent to this hearing as well?
Yes.
Okay. We'll consider it, and of course also consider all the written application testimony and evidence that is presented as well. Is this, where was this cell phone located?
It was on Mr. Justin Harris. It was on his person when he was placed under arrest by officer at the scene.
Okay, and so it was taken into custody in the evidence locker at that point in time?
Yeah, so it was taken instant to arrest and then it was placed in the evidence locker.
All right, and is this his personal cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. I noticed that it has a long distance number to it. Do you know where the cell phone origin is?
Sorry, in front of you.
It's okay. I noticed the cell phone has a long distance phone number attached to it, a 205 area code. Do you know where that is?
No, I don't. I haven't researched it yet.
Okay. Do you know any reason why it would not have a local phone number attached to it?
I do not.
Okay.
Imagine he might have moved from out of state, just got the same number.
But this was a cell phone that was on this person? Okay. Is there any other evidence or testimony that you'd like to submit in furtherance of this search warrant?
No, sir.
Okay. In consideration of the testimony that you have provided in this hearing as well as the previous hearings for docket numbers E010634, 635, and 636, I find that there's sufficient probable cause to grant the search warrant for the search of the white AT&T iPhone 5 having a cell number attached to it of 205-792-6806, currently located at 140 North Marietta Parkway, Marietta, Georgia 30060 inside Cobb County in the Crimes Against Person Evidence Room for the purpose of searching that cell phone for the data that it contains that could be evidence of either the crime of homicide or cruelty to a child in the first degree. At this point in time, let's see here. Just want to make sure that it is clear that we're considering the written and sworn application contained with this search warrant as well as the previous ones in the same case. I do find that there is sufficient evidence of probable cause to grant the search warrant. At this time, that will conclude our formal hearing. I'm going to stop the recording, review the recording to make certain that it's recorded this hearing in its entirety and accurately. And then I will return to you and give instructions for printing your search warrant. So please hold on for just one moment.
Okay.
So at the time that you were requesting this search warrant, Mr. Harris had already been arrested?
Yes.
And you think that was in between the previous search warrant and this search warrant that he was arrested, or do you know?
I don't know specifically. I think so.
All right. And you certainly did inform the magistrate specifically when he asked where the cell phone was located that it had been taken from his person when he was placed under arrest. It was taken incident to his arrest on the scene, correct?
So it was taken by the officers and sent to arrest.
And did you actually speak with any of the officers on the scene to verify that that's in fact what they did? They took an incident to his arrest on the scene?
No, I did not. I was relayed information that when he was handcuffed and placed in the backseat of the car, they secured his phone.
Very good. And with regards to when asked, what do you want to look for? That's when you said, well, we basically want to pull all the information off the phone. Correct?
I also added that we wanted to search text messages, phone calls, to see what kind of day he was having.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're clear. Your expectation was you just want to pull all the information off his phone, see what you might find, correct?
We were going to search the phone to see what we could find related to this incident, yes.
Okay. And then the next question, when asked again, what type of data do you hope to locate? That's when you said you hope to locate some text messages, correct?
Yes.
You had no evidence that he had sent any text messages that day, at that point in time, correct?
We know that he was on the phone,
Talking on the phone, correct?
yes, but we also wanted to see what he was doing for those 7 hours while he was at work.
I understand.
Who he was communicating with, was there someone talking about him with his son? Was that brought up in text messages where it should have triggered something?
And you told the magistrate, we just want to show what kind of day he had, correct?
Yes, we were looking to see text messages, phone calls, and
You had no evidence whatsoever that any communication had been had with him regarding his son that day, at the time you saw the search warrant, correct?
that's what we were getting the search warrant for.
Exactly. You just want to go looking for some evidence to see what you would find, correct?
No, we're looking for evidence of, it's an iPhone, you can do research and all that type of stuff on there pertaining to his statements in his interview.
But you didn't put that in your... Sorry.
What's that?
You did not put that in your affidavit to the...
It's in the written affidavit referencing that statement. I referenced the statement in my oral.
The statement about researching? That statement again?
Yeah. I referenced researching and that we're looking at the phone for regarding internet access.
And you also said, we just want to see what he was doing while this kid was dying inside the vehicle, correct?
Yes, I made that statement.
The only evidence you had was that he was at work that day, not texting or calling or even using that phone that day, correct?
No, he was on the phone when the officers pulled up on the scene.
Right. After he's pulled his child out of the car and given the child CPR, correct?
Yes, and then he separates himself from everything and starts making phone calls.
And he separates himself when someone else starts tending to the child and the EMS have responded, correct?
I don't, EMS, it took him a little bit, but when somebody else begins helping with the child, he's moves to the other side of the vehicle.
Did you speak with, at that point in time, Officer Piper about any evidence as to who he was trying to reach on the phone and why?
No, I had not spoken with her at that time.
And again, just so we're clear, for States 40599, your affidavit had not changed from the prior two search warrant affidavits, written affidavit, correct?
Correct.
And that was the last search warrant that you obtained on the night of the 18th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then the next group of warrants deals with the items, electronic devices from the home.
The home and the vehicle.
And the- thank you. Search warrant 0605 for the Dell 9200 computer tower. That item of evidence has been secured prior or pursuant to the prior search warrant for the home, correct?
Yes, sir. It was secure in the second search warrant for the home.
And the written affidavit that you provided, again, is the same as the last affidavit you had provided, with the exception of the last sentence, correct?
Yes, sir.
In that last sentence, you allege that Ms. Harris, the child's mother, had been questioned regarding the incident and made similar statements regarding researching in-car deaths and how it occurs, correct?
Yes.
Now, this time, when you use that word, have you heard anyone else say that, or are you just using it, pulling it up yourself?
I can't remember if someone else told me that, or if, based on what they told me, I came up with that statement.
Well, at the time that you told the magistrate, you had no actual evidence that Ms. Harris had ever said that she researched child car deaths, correct?
She had been interviewed by a detective the prior day and made statements that she had watched it on TV.
And that was Detective Stockinger, correct?
Or she mentioned that she hears about it on the news, has heard about it on the news.
Heard about it on the news. And do you recall, first of all, do you recall even talking to Detective Stockinger about his interview with Ms. Harris?
I don't know if he gave me the information directly or it was relayed from him.
So you might have gotten it at least secondhand, possibly further beyond secondhand, correct?
Possibly.
And in fact, in her speaking with Detective Stockinger, have you since looked at his interview of Ms. Harris to see if in fact she said anything about seeing anything?
I reviewed his written supplement on the interview. I didn't listen to it or hear an audio recording of it.
All right. In her interview, which this is an interview that occurred on the 18th, correct?
Yes,
At was that at Little Aprons Academy, I believe?
I believe so.
And that's the only interview that was had of Ms. Harris, at least to the point in time that you were securing this warrant, correct?
I think she was, I want to say she was talked to at the headquarters
By whom?
by Detective Stoddard. I'm not positive on that. I believe she was spoken with there.
Did you have that information when you met with the magistrate?
Yeah, I can't remember specifically if he had interviewed her at the office or not. I know that she came to the office and we allowed her and Mr. Harris.
All right. The reality is, in Ms. Harris speaking with detectives, the only thing she indicated was, it has just always been a big fear, and then you hear about it on the news. That's the extent of her statement about it, correct?
So it's always been one of her biggest fears, and that they, referring to Mr. Harris, have talked about it a lot, and that they've heard about it on the news.
Any source of information other than her saying that you hear about it on the news?
Not to my knowledge.
Absolutely no indication whatsoever that she has researched this whatsoever, correct?
I said before that obtaining information from the news is gaining information, which be considered research.
I got you. So in your definition of research, anything that comes across your path that you observe and see, you include that in research.
If I'm gaining information on something I'm watching on TV or looking at on the computer, I would consider that research.
All right. When we're speaking with the magistrate, you not only claim that she researched this, but you indicate that Mr. Harris had researched how long it takes for animals or small children to pass away in vehicles in this manner. You recall that?
Yes.
You also said that Ms. Harris had made similar statements and had done research online, correct?
Yes.
And you keep referring, it looks like you're referring to something. You just have some handwritten notes of kind of what you told the magistrate, is that what you're looking at?
Yes, I just have some handwritten notes of what I stated.
Okay. When the magistrate asked you about searching forensically on these computers, he asked you about finding out information about child deaths in vehicles. And you responded, yeah, that's mainly what we want to see. Recall that?
I don't recall it, but I might have said that.
You recall the magistrate asking you, would it show what sites have been visited as well as downloads? You have that noted?
Yes.
Did you know how you responded to that?
So he states, would it show the sites they want to went to and downloads? I state I don't know specifically what we can get off of it. And I said basically we're going to take all the information off the computer and go into we have high-tech officers and how they will do that. And I later say that if they were doing Google searches for this type of incident with in-car deaths, looking for when they were doing it and any other research related to that.
So you made it clear that you didn't know what you were going to find, correct? Or more specifically, you told him, I don't know specifically what we get off of it.
I told them in taking the totality of my statement what we were looking for, and also, I don't know what we're going to find until we get into it.
So it's fair to say you didn't have any evidence to give to the magistrate regarding specific items that you were going to locate on that computer.
We were looking to see if the computer had been used to research or view stuff related to in-car deaths.
You just wanted to look at it and see what you'd find, correct?
Yes, if we could find that, that's what the search warrant was for.
Let me play this oral testimony. There's one other issue I want to address. I apologize, Your Honor, every time
I do have, excuse me,
there it goes.
a few questions. There were witnesses at the scene when Mr. Justin Harris pulled into a business parking lot, opens the passenger door, pulls out the child, and then states for witnesses, or a witness, oh my God, what have I done? And then began CPR on the child, is this correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it says when someone came to assist Justin, he stopped providing medical attention and started making calls. Was it to 911, or do you know, does anybody know who he was calling?
We believe it was to his wife.
Okay,
She said she had this call from him that right about that time.
okay,
We don't know if it was other people who were calling or not yet.
okay. It says EMS responded to the scene. Did he call 911? Did somebody else call 911? Do you know who called 911?
I know some witnesses called 911. I don't know if he did or not.
Okay.
They never, if he did dial it, it never went through where he was talking to a dispatcher in Cobb County.
I'm sorry, what was it about
If
him?
he did, we pulled the 911 record, and to my knowledge right now, they don't have a record of him calling.
Okay. All right. Now let me also ask you, Leanna Harris, that's the child's mother. Does Leanna Harris live with Justin Harris?
Yes.
Okay. And how old is the child? How old was the child, I'm sorry?
22 months.
22. Okay. The child was pronounced dead at the scene?
Yes.
And did you interview Mr. Harris or did somebody else?
I did not expect to start.
Okay. And Mr. Harris stated to the detective that it says he took the child to Chick-fil-A in Vinings and then went to work and then forgot that the child was in the vehicle. Is that what he stated?
Yes, he left the house with the child, took him to Chick-fil-A, he was supposed to drop him off at daycare, and then go to work, and he went from Chick-fil-A with the kid in the car, straight to work, just left him in the car while full time he was at work.
And did he usually take the child to daycare?
Yes,
So his routine would have been to stop at the daycare center?
not every morning, but at least 2 to 3 days a week, I said, he would bring a kid to daycare.
Now, the temperature on the day was in the 90s for most of the day. How hot would it have been in the vehicle? I presume the windows were closed?
Yes, as far as we know, the windows were shut. I mean, I would take some research to find out how hot it gets inside the vehicle.
Now, tell me about, in turn, both Mr. and Mrs. Harris's statements regarding researching child deaths in a vehicle.
During Mr. Harris's interview, somehow it came up that this was his biggest fear, and he had done research on how hot it needs to be and how long it takes for animals or small children to pass away in vehicles in this manner, which seemed kind of odd. He said he just recently researched that.
Okay.
And his wife also made a statement to the detective that went and talked to her, and they drove her back up here to speak with us. She made a similar statement as the fact that this was one of her biggest fears and that they had done research on this online.
Okay.
It seems really odd that they both researched this and it happens.
Okay. All right, and this particular item, and you have 7 applications pending for search warrants, is this correct?
Yes,
And this particular search warrant application is for a Dell Dimension 9200 computer tower. This was obtained or recovered from Mr. Harris's residence, their joint residence, correct?
yes,
From the residence at 1212 Winds Ridge Circle, Marietta, during the execution of search warrant number 14SW0597. It is now in Marietta Police Department, is that correct? No, sorry, it's at Cobb, it's at Cobb Police Department, correct?
Yes.
And you'd like to search through, forensically search the computer, and is this for purposes of finding out information regarding child deaths in vehicles or something? This is something else, let me know.
Yes, pertaining to that, just mainly, what kind of research are doing on the internet? The bill said that they were looking up that type of information.
Okay. And would this be, would it show both sites that they visited as well as downloads, or what specifically are you looking at?
I don't know specifically what we get off of it, but basically just to take all the information from the computer and, we have a officer that will do that, to take all the information, dump it, and then they'll be able to look through it all, and probably, look through and see what they were researching, if they were doing Google searches for this type of, incident with in-car deaths and all that, see when they were doing it, the specific day and all that. And just if there's any other research they were doing related to this incident.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now let me ask you then, you've listed the two charges as cruelty to child first, as one of the charges, cruelty to child first. Is it believed that this was done then with malice as opposed to negligence?
Not this time. This time he was charged with cruelty to child first, which is a felony, which is also why it's charged with homicide.
Oh, I understood the felony murder. I was asking about the cruelty to child first. That would have to have been with malice, so that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So it was the malice charge, not the reckless charge?
Yes.
Okay. And so then it is believed that this was done to intentionally harm or to kill the child?
Yes.
Now, is there anything else that, what are the other devices, since I have you on the recording, that you'll be asking to search through?
The first one is the computer power. The second one is a Google Chromecast. Third one's a MacBook Pro laptop. The fourth is a Lenovo T530 ThinkPad laptop, or just a ThinkPad, sorry. The Apple MacBook Pro, and an Apple iPad, and also a iPhone.
And these were all seized during the execution of that same search warrant number 14SW0597?
The first three were, and the other four were seized. Search warrant found a vehicle, and read that number for just a second. That's search warrant 14-SW-0598.
And that was the vehicle that Mr. Harris was driving?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, is there anything that we have not covered for oral testimony, that was not already in the written application that you want to let me know at this time? And I know that oral testimony was given, received, and recorded. If you find that probable cause exists, I'm going to grant the search warrant. I ask that you sign the application. I'm going to stop the recording.
Now, Detective Murphy, the question was asked of you as to what this searching would show. And you indicated, did you not, that basically y'all want to take all the information and dump it and look through it all. Correct?
That's part of what I said.
And when asked specifically about whether this was done with malice, you heard that, you recall your responses to that?
Yes.
And at first you indicated no, not at this time, correct?
Yes, I do.
And then you changed your answer, and when the judge said, well, if it's first degree, it had to be done with malice, you said yes. Recall that?
Yes.
And you've been testifying earlier today that in fact you were looking at child cruelty as it relates to not providing sustenance, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then when asked again, asked if this was done intentionally to harm the child or kill the child, you said yes, correct?
I believe so.
You recognize those as two separate positions, correct?
What do you mean, cruelty and malice?
Well, malice being intentionally done to kill the child as compared to not providing necessary sustenance to the child.
Yes. The warrant was for cruelty in the first, and I think I got a little confused when she started asking about it, but we were starting to believe that it may involve malice at that time.
And that's why you responded when she asked you the first time, not at this time?
Yes.
You just directly misrepresented to...
That wasn't the
Judge
charge at
Blackwell.
this time.
Well, the question was, is it believed this was done with malice? And you said, no, not at this time. Was that true or was that not true?
That's what I said.
Was that true or not true?
What, not at this time? No, it was charged with cruelty at that time.
Do you understand there's multiple ways you can commit first-degree child cruelty? Maybe that's where we're getting confused here.
Yes, I do now. I wasn't aware of it at the time.
But whether or not you were thinking it was done intentionally or not, did you know that at the time?
I suspected, but I did not know if it was or not.
So when asked if it was done intentionally to harm the child, you said yes. Correct.
I think she said, do you think it was done? And I said yes.
All right. And the next one, I think will be very quick. 14 SW 0606, the Google Chromecast. Basically, it's fair to say you didn't have any idea what a Google Chromecast was, did you?
I knew it was some type of internet electronic device. I did not know what it does at the time.
When you say it was some sort of internet electronic device, what did you think it was?
At the time, or I know what it is now.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, since we're here to talk about what happened at the time, what did you think it was at the time?
Some type of internet device.
Okay.
That's what I was told by the detective that secured it.
I got you. So again, you're just repeating information that you've been provided by another detective, correct?
That's what I was aware of it was, some type of internet device.
Okay. Had you ever seen one before?
No.
Okay. Ever read about one before?
Before that, no.
Ever just had one pass by you on a TV commercial?
No.
You've since learned that it's not at all a storage device, or an internet searching device, excuse me.
No, it's used to basically play stuff from the computer onto a television, or project a screen from the computer onto the television, I believe was what it does.
All right. Certainly nothing that would contain any tangible evidence of the crime of child cruelty or homicide, correct?
I don't know the capabilities of that, if it would store images on it that are related to the television or not.
Well, I mean, I guess that's my question. You sought a search warrant to search it for specific things, did you not?
Yes.
And what you said was, so it can be examined for evidence of these crimes.
Yes. Related to research of in-car deaths.
And again, that word research that you came up with, or you got from a detective, we're not sure, but the Google Chromecast device, you had no information that that could be used to do any internet research, correct?
I knew it was an electronic device and possibly had internet capabilities. I wasn't sure. I mean, obviously, now I know it relays information from the computer to a television where you can play shows or basically put the computer screen on there. I mean, there's no telling if it stores that information or has some kind of memory of what was last seen on it, I don't know.
That hasn't been checked into since y'all had it over a year now?
I believe they've looked at it. I don't think there was anything on it. You'd have to ask other detectives that looked at that device, but I don't believe there was anything on it.
Fair enough. Knowing what you know now, you would not have sought a search warrant for the Google Chromecast device, correct?
I probably would have secured it just under abundance of caution that maybe it did store images that were projected to the screen, because I don't know what the capabilities of it are.
In fact, you store it because if you did some investigation, you might actually get some evidence to indicate, hey, there might be something there, correct?
I'm sorry.
You might actually investigate to find out if there's even a possibility of any evidence being on this device, correct?
Yeah, once you obtain the search warrant, you would see if there's any capabilities of that keeping information on it.
Do you perform investigations without a search warrant?
You can, yes.
But y'all didn't in this case. You just went and got some search warrants so you can go looking through all this stuff without doing any independent investigation into what those items were to begin with. Is that fair to say?
That item was secured during the search warrant of the house, believed to possibly have internet capabilities by detectives there. And I was
Someone
then,
told you that?
that's what I was, yes.
Okay.
That's why they,
You spoke to a magistrate about that, correct?
for the search warrant?
Correct.
I believe so, yeah. I just took out a search warrant on it.
Do you recall being asked specifically, can it search the internet? Is that why it's a Google device?
I think I responded, yeah, some kind of internet search device.
Okay. That was not true, was it?
Once I researched it and determined what it was, I didn't know that it it projected images onto a screen. Again, I don't know if it can save what was projected onto the screen or not. I don't know what the full capabilities of that device is. They secured it in the search warrant, and our high-tech unit looked at it.
When you said yes, it's some kind of internet search device, that was not true, was it?
I believe that to be true because that's what the information I was given.
And the base of that information was some unnamed detective?
That's the information I had.
From where?
I believe, I know it was secured during the search warrant of the house by Detective Racy. I don't know if he specifically gave me that information or not.
If you were asked a second time, would it be able to be downloaded or see the sites visited from that device? You recall that question?
No, I don't.
So you don't recall answering that yes, I presume?
It's not in my notes. I'll have to listen to the recording.
All right. Do you recall being asked a third question? Well, so you're looking for research done by Justin Leanne Harris? You recall that question?
I don't recall that to listen to it.
We'll get right with that.
Let's take a break. Let's break until, I guess, 3:30. And we can get that set up in the meantime.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.